very good evening and welcome to this live session on the exam strategy for the IBPS PO 2016 exam brought to you by TalentSprint. Well, this is going to be a very short session, maybe half an hour of discussion, I would say. Let me draw your attention to the word discussion here, because we are not going to solve some questions like what we usually do in our regular free sessions, right? Today we are going to focus on what should be your strategy for that 1 hour of your IBPS PO preliminary examination, and what should you do in the last few days. Like the first slot of exam is scheduled in the next 3 or 4 days, right? So what should you do in this last few days of your preparation so that you can maximize your chances of selection for the IBPS PO main examination. All right, so let me quickly mention that you have to interact with me through the live chat, which is running beside the video screen. Please post your queries, your comments, and let me know as to how is your preparation going on, and based on that we will decide a kind of personal strategy for all of you. Okay, I see a lot of you have already joined the session. A few names that are there in the chat are Vikram Reddy, S. Roy, Vinay Kumar, Noor Alam, Abhijit, Arun Kumar, Augustine. Then we have Ram Kumar, Ravi Raj, Akhil, Sadhana, Nilesh, Sujit, who's from Karnataka. Then we have Kiran Suresh, Naveen, Rashmi. Good. So good to see you all participating in this weekly session that we have. I hope all of you have had a great weekend and a good festival there. Right, so what is the feeling like? Let me ask this question to you first, right? You know that the exam is just a few days away, right? IBPS PO exam. Of course, many other exams are going to follow up, right? IBPS clerks examination, then there will be IBPS RRB exams, right? Notifications for which have already been released. I'm sure most of you would have applied for all the 3 exams, right? And it is like a common preparation, right? One preparation will help you in all these 3 exams, right? It's not that IBPS clerks is completely different from IBPS POs, or RRBs is completely different from POs or clerks. All are same. I mean, the syllabus is same, the type of questions asked are same. Maybe the difficulty level will vary a little bit, and the scheme of examination may be a little different. Like this time, IBPS RRBs has a completely new structure of preliminary examination, right? Of course, we'll discuss all the details when we start our sessions on RRB. Today's focus will be on IBPS PO. So how's your preparation for this exam? How are you feeling about it? I'm sure all of you have downloaded your admit cards already, and you know your examination date, time and venue, etc. All right. So now that there are only 4 or 5 days left, I hope, or I would say, I think many of you are nervous about it, right? And also excited at the same time, which is natural, right? Little bit of nervousness is natural. That should not panic you. But then how is the preparation and how confident are you about your performance in this exam? So Ram Kumar says, I'm a little nervous. Akhil says, not so confident. Is it going to be like SBI PO prelims? Pallavi Yadav says, I'm worried. Someone says, very tensed and sometimes, okay, I've missed your chat. Very tensed and sometimes. We have Shobha Kiran who says, confident only, sometimes nervous. Vinay Kumar says, it's going great. Shujit says, preparation is yet to finish. Well, that is bad, I would say. Your preparation, of course, see, the practice will go on till the last day, right? No doubts about that. But your preparation in terms of learning various concepts and techniques and shortcuts should have been done by now, right? If it is not, please make sure that you expedite your learning and practice as much as you can. All right. Akhil says revision is going on. Yeah. And Chetan says, I'm nervous but pumped for the challenge. बस आपका आशीर्वाद, मेरा आशीर्वाद हमेशा आप सभी के साथ है. वैसे कुछ काम करने वाला है नहीं मेरा आशीर्वाद, बट देन लेट्स होप फॉर द बेस्ट. आई एम श्योर आपने प्रिपरेशन अगर अच्छी की हो, सो यू विल परफॉर्म वेल, राइट? ओके, सो लुक्स लाइक देयर इज अ मिक्स्ड रेस्पॉन्स. व्हाइल many of you are not very confident, it was like I'm not very confident, nervous and all. Some are quite confident, like Krishna says it's going good, right? And many others have said that, you know, we are really confident about the preparation. So I think the first thing that I would say is, you know, irrespective of what amount of preparation you have done, whatever you have learned, whatever is yet to be learned, be confident, right? A little bit of nervousness is natural. It has to be there, right? If somebody says that I'm not nervous at all, that's again a problem, right? You have to, you know, you got to feel that little bit of nervousness. Only then you'll be able to, you know, take it seriously and perform well. But then it should not cross a threshold and then become a panic stage, right? So don't worry if there's a little bit of nervousness, it's okay. But then be confident, right? Don't lose hope. Don't get scared. Right? Don't think too much about cutoffs and things like that, right? I'm sure cutoff is a major question that, you know, most of you have in your head right now, right? What would be the cutoff? How many questions should I attempt, right? And, you know, what type of questions would be asked, etc. Let me tell you, none of these things are in our control, right? If you ask me what is going to be the cutoff, I don't know. What is the expected cutoff? I don't know. What type of questions are going to be asked? I don't know. Right? These things are not in our control at all, right? We can talk about 100 things like this is estimated, this would be the cutoff, last year this was the cutoff, so this year this is going to be the cutoff, but I don't believe in all that, because cutoff is not pre-decided. It is all calculated after the examination gets over based on the performance of all the students, right? Based on the number of vacancies, etc. So don't worry about that. Ensure and try to give your best in that limited 1 hour of time. All right. Now, I'm sure everybody will have, each one of us will have our own, you know, strengths and weakness, right, based on our preparation, right? Some of you may be very strong in quant, some of you will be very strong in English language, some may be very, very confident about reasoning. So there cannot be a common strategy for all of us, right? If you believe that I'll give you a strategy which will be applicable to all of you, it's not going to be the case, right? You will have to work on a strategy for yourself based on your preparation, based on your strengths and your weaknesses. But one thing that we can discuss about, right, roughly discuss about, is the time that you should spend. I mean, how should you spend that 1 hour of limited time across these 3 sections? What type of questions should you attempt? What type of questions you must avoid in the examination? And what exactly you need to do 2-3 days before the exam, all right? But before that, let me just quickly ask you if you have you know, any questions other than this. I mean, I'm sure time management is a big question which we will discuss about, don't worry. I already see a lot of questions coming in about time management, which subject to attempt first. So we'll discuss these 2 things, right? In which order should one attempt these sections, and how should you split your time across the 3 sections. But anything other than that, please let me know now itself, so that we can discuss during our you know, discussion for the strategy. Akhil says, is skipping data interpretation in quantitative aptitude wise? No, it would be stupid in my view, because data interpretation is actually very easy. It all depends on your calculation ability. You just have to choose the right numbers, play with those numbers, do some calculation and mark the answer. Of course, out of 5 questions that are asked in a set, maybe 1 or 2 are very, very complex in terms of the number of calculations or the type of calculations. But the other 3 are very easy, right? 3 to 4 are generally easy. So skipping data interpretation is not a good strategy. We'll discuss more about what to attempt, what not to attempt when we start about the strategy there. But then anything else other than that? Arun Kumar says attempting all data interpretation is not wise. Yeah, exactly. Aptitude part takes time. So, okay, somebody had asked a question about aptitude. Let me just read that comment first. Aptitude part takes time, more time, so please tell for that one. Okay, we'll discuss all this. Siddhartha says, please do a discussion or analysis of the paper of 16th August. 16th August? What do you mean by 16th August? Piyush Singh is asking about puzzles in reasoning. Well, that is something you should definitely skip, right? Whether you attempt other questions or not, I would say definitely skip puzzles. Don't try and take those kind of risk in the exam, right? Again, we'll discuss in detail. What else? What are the main topics to be focused in the last week so that we can score more? Then English 15 marks, Quant 20 marks, Reasoning 25 marks is what Rohan says, right? Rohan believes that that's how we should split his time. Then how can we chat when we have a doubt? Well, there is a chat box. I mean, the way you have put that chat, same way put a question. But then this is not going to be about subject discussion. See, we have already done sessions on quantitative aptitude, reasoning, English language for IBPS PO exam, right? We have solved some questions from the previous papers. Of course, we all wish that we could do more, but there's always a time limit that we also have. So we have not been able to do really much, but then yes, we have done sessions on each of these subjects covering some questions from the previous papers. Of course, a lot of sessions were done for the TalentSprint students. You all can also check those videos out if you are one of the TalentSprint students there, right? How to clear the English cutoff? Well, in the first place, I would say, Puneet, let us understand that we don't know what is going to be the cutoff in English, okay? But certain things can be followed so that you can maximize your score there. Like reading comprehension, which is actually time consuming, can be avoided, right? You can solve the other questions first and then come back to reading comprehension. So things like these can be followed to maximize your score. But the only challenge that we mostly see is, although we discuss about all these things, implementing in the exam becomes really difficult, right? We all go prepared that we'll not do this, will not attempt such questions and all, but for some reason maybe you get tempted or what, you start solving those questions which are not to be done, right? So that is something which you have to really control. Otherwise it's of no use, right? PPM cases, what is an ideal attempt for quant section? Well, I would say attempt all the 35 questions, but let us get into details. Don't worry about that. Is it enough to do only 15 questions with 100% efficiency? Well, PPMK, if you ask me questions like these, okay, Naveen had asked it actually. Is it enough to do only 15 questions with 100% accuracy? I don't know. See, it again indirectly you're asking me what is going to be the cutoff. Instead of straight putting it that what will be the cutoff in quantitative aptitude, you are coming in a different way. That if I solve 15 questions with 100% accuracy, is it good enough? I don't know. The cutoff usually is in the range of 10, 12. But I don't want to comment anything about how many minimum questions you have to attempt or what should be the good number of attempts so that you can clear the cutoff. Because I'm being very honest and frank, I don't know what the cutoff is. It can go up to 20 marks. It may be only 4 or 5 marks also. It all depends on how we perform. You all need to understand this very clearly and forget about that so-called cutoff number, right? See, again, I think Arpit says, after how many questions in quant should we stop? UTK says, if there are 3 puzzles in the exam, then what to do, skip or not? Yeah, how to handle exam pressure. Somebody says how to handle exam pressure. Akash Gaikwad, right? Akash, I think the first thing is stop thinking about cutoff, in the first place, right? That is why most of us are nervous, right? That is why we are worried. We should implement our plans in the exams like MS Dhoni does in his matches. Just have to withstand the pressure and doesn't allow it to take over us. Yes, I hope all of you follow what Chetan says, right? Don't let that pressure build on you, right? See, some amount of nervousness is always good, like what I've mentioned in the beginning, right? What is the optimal time spent for English and things like that. All right, so I think overall, nothing new. As expected, the questions are around time management, how many questions should we attempt, which section should we attempt, should we answer DI or not, should we answer puzzles or not, what if there are 3 puzzles asked, should we attempt or not, and things like that. So let us start discussing about all this. Like I said, this is going to be a very small session, right? Mainly we'll be focusing on 2 questions. What should be the order in which you must attempt the sections and how much time should you spend in each of these sections. So let us quickly understand the preliminary exam structure first. You all know that there are 3 sections, right? Let's say quantitative aptitude. Then we'll have reasoning ability, and in no specific order, I'm just listing out the sections there. And the third one is going to be English language, right? Then there are going to be 35 questions in the first 2 sections here and 30 questions in English language. Marks, again, each question carries 1 mark, so 35 marks here and 30 marks here. So altogether you have got 100 questions, 100 marks, maximum marks that you can score, and only 1 hour of composite time is given to us. Now what do you mean by composite time? 60 minutes. Now you spend it whichever way you want, right? If you want to spend 55 minutes on quantitative aptitude, you are allowed to do that, right? Nobody is going to stop you. Or if you want to spend only 5 minutes on aptitude, nobody is going to stop you, right? You take a call and you can spend that 1 hour of composite time the way you want it, right? It is 1 hour for all the 3 sections put together. Now, if you really look at it with the changing patterns of bank exams, a big problem that has gotten solved by itself is in the main examination. You know that in SBI PO and SBI clerks main examination as well, and now in IBPS PO main exam also, there is a sectional time limit. Alright, so what happens? You don't have to worry about how you are going to spend this 1 hour across the 3 sections. It is pre-decided, right? Like for example, they have decided that they'll give you only 30 minutes for quantitative aptitude. So you have to spend 30 minutes, whether you like it or not, whether it is enough or not, you just have 30 minutes. The other problem that has got solved by itself is the order of sections. Now because each section has got a fixed time, they are going to present the sections in an order, right? So you don't even have to worry about which section should you attempt first and which section should you attempt towards the end. The only thing that you have to think about and plan out is the way you are going to attempt a particular section, right? What kind of questions would you like to attempt first? What kind of questions you have to skip, etc. But only in the main examination. In the prelims examination, all these questions are still open. We have to have a strategy of our own. Now, I know all of you have gone through all these sections, you have learned all the topics, you know the shortcut formula, etc. Right? If not, you have to make sure that you very quickly finish the learning component of your preparation, right? And keep practicing. If you quickly run through the different types of topics, quantitative aptitude, I would say, has got usually 4 modules, right? Like numerical ability, which has got questions from simplifications, approximations, number systems, LCM and HCF, number series, etc. Right? Things related to numbers basically. Then there is a big component called arithmetic ability, which has got topics like averages, percentages, ratio and proportion, time and work, time and distance, profit and loss, interest, right? Allegations and mixtures, ages, partnership, etc. Then there is one more component on data interpretation, right? So data interpretation, set theory, case studies, then data sufficiency, all these things come under that. And then there is a pure mathematics component where we are tested on topics like permutations and combinations, probability, mensuration, right? Those kind of things. So these are the different topics. When it comes to reasoning, major topics are arrangements, right? Complex circular arrangements, complex linear arrangements, simple circular arrangements, simple linear arrangements, complex assignments. Then there is critical reasoning where we are asked questions on statements and arguments, statements and assumptions, right? Cause and effect, course of action, etc. Then there are other general topics like coding and decoding, coded inequalities, blood relations, directions, element series, alphabet, and things like this. Machine input output, syllogisms, right? These are the topics. When it comes to English language, finding errors, fill in the blanks, parajumbles, parajumbles. Then we have something called as a closed passage where there are 5 or 10 blanks given in a passage, right? You have to fill up those blanks. Then reading comprehension and questions based on vocabulary, synonyms, antonyms and things like that. So in general, that's the syllabus which is usually tested in any of the bank exams, right? I mean, the focus may be more on data interpretation in few exams. It may be more on simplifications and approximations in some other exams and things like that. So given are the sections, the number of questions per section, the time per section, I mean the marks per section and the overall time. And we have already discussed about the topics. Now, what is important in quantitative aptitude? What kind of topics should you focus on, right? Or what kind of topics should you avoid in this particular section? Well, I would say when it comes to quantitative aptitude, I mean, although some of you have already asked about data interpretation, should we skip it or not? I would say don't skip, right? There is actually nothing in quantitative aptitude which is like better to skip, right? Because every topic because almost every topic, every type of question from each of these topics has a way for us to arrive at the answer. There is a definite method which can be used and which can be used to solve the question and get the required answer. There's only one topic where there is no guarantee, which is number series, right? You know that number series has got no definite method to solve a question. You may or may not be able to, get the logic. It's all about getting the right logic at the right time, right? Which may not happen. Sometimes the question from number series is very, very easy, but still we don't get the logic. Sometimes even very complex ones we can crack in, just 10 seconds or 15 seconds. So the point that I'm trying to make here is, except number series, there is nothing in quantitative aptitude. All those topics that we have talked about, every topic has got methods to solve the given question, right? Whether it is permutations or combinations or probability or data interpretation or percentages or LCM and HCF or anything for that matter, right? The only exception is number series. So what I would say is, if there are questions asked on number series, which is again a very popular topic, right? Usually it is asked in set of 5 questions, right? Number series can be given a weightage of 5 marks out of 35 questions. So if there are questions on number series, be careful, right? I don't say skip it. I would say give it a shot immediately. Spend about 10 to 15 seconds per question. If you're able to get the logic, well and good. Otherwise, simply skip and move to the next one. What usually happens is, out of our curiosity, we end up wasting a lot of time on questions from number series. But keep in mind that there is no definite method. Sometimes it may take half an hour to get the answer. Sometimes it may just give us the answer in a few seconds, 5 to 10 seconds, right? So never take chances with these kind of topics. Only where there is a definite method, definitely go for it, right? So I think quant is something where I would say don't skip anything unless you are very weak in it. Like for example, some students are not very confident about permutations and combinations. They usually get confused, or probability is difficult for them. So keep an eye on such questions. Avoid. If you are not confident, if you are not prepared well, or let's say you have not even prepared at all, like there is a topic called allegations and mixtures. Somebody is not prepared at all. So no point in trying out such questions. That's a different story, right? Completely. But in general, there's nothing in quant which has to be skipped. So I would say every question from quantitative aptitude is to be attempted in the examination. All right? Including number series, but be careful. Don't spend more than 10-15 seconds there, right? Otherwise, it will become like a gamble, right? And we are not there to take those kind of risk in the exam. Look at the next section, reasoning, reasoning ability. Now, this is a very important section in my view, right? Although it has got the same number of questions as aptitude and same weightage is given in terms of marks, but this can be a game changer, right? And most of the times, this is where we end up wasting a lot of time and it spoils our complete examination. Now, what are tested in reasoning ability? We have already discussed. Major topics are, based on arrangements, circular and linear arrangements, complex assignments. Then there are topics on critical reasonings and things like that. Okay. So these topics, which especially complex circular arrangements, complex linear arrangements, again have got no fixed method, right? There's no step-by-step process that you can follow to get the answer. And every question is different, and the complexity of each question again is different, right? You never know until you start solving the question about the complexity of it. You never know how much time it is going to take, right? Like for a question from profit and loss, we know that it will give us the answer in maximum 1 minute. Considering the level of questions that we have in bank exams, right? But in complex arrangements, you don't know. It may take 10 minutes, it may take 20 minutes, it may take 1 hour. Sometimes it takes days together to complete a question. Now, when that is the case, why do we take chances of attempting such questions in the exam? You're able to follow. See, I'm not saying we cannot solve it, but then do not take that risk. Of course, there is a definite approach, right? There is a process that can be followed, but whether that process will result in the output or not, we don't know, right? Sometimes it can be so complex that it takes us 16 different attempts to complete a question. And even if you, let's say, crack that question in 15 minutes, what is the point? 15 minutes you have spent and you will get maximum 5 marks. Or sometimes if it is a 7 or 8 marks question, you will score 7 to 8 marks. But 15 minutes is 1/4 of the total time given to you. And you have scored only 7-8 marks there. So definitely make sure that you do not attempt questions based on complex arrangements immediately, right? I would say mark those questions for review. If it is a simple one, go for it, because simple circular arrangements, like the name says, are simple and it can be cracked in maybe 2 to 3 minutes, right? And you would know whether it is a simple one or a complex one. What is the major difference in simple circular arrangement and complex circular arrangement? In a simple circular arrangement, you will only have to arrange the given group of persons around a circular table. But in a complex one, you'll not only have to arrange the persons around the table, but also find out parameters associated with them, like their favorite color or their favorite sport or the country which they belong to or their profession, right? Sometimes 2-3 parameters have to be fixed. Now these things will get complex. Sometimes even simple arrangement can be complex, but then usually it is not. So you have to be very, very choosy when it comes to reasoning ability, right? Choose your questions wisely. Do not take any risk. Remember, you are not there to prove anything, right? Don't say that I have solved a complex arrangement question. So what? You will get only 1 mark per question. Because you have solved a complex one, the examiner is not going to award you 2 marks. You getting it? So be very careful when you're solving questions on reasoning ability. Now, this is what we have actually discussed, is what has to be avoided. Like complex arrangement, definitely avoid. What has to be definitely attempted? Everything else. Right, be it let's say coding and decoding, or topics like coded inequalities, syllogisms, machine input output, right? These are very simple topics. I mean, in my view, coded inequalities and syllogism is like some of the easiest topics in reasoning, right? There is a definite method and you can solve any given question in less than a minute. So go for it, right? Don't skip anything from these kind of topics. Of course, in coding and decoding, sometimes the logic may be complex. I mean, coding and decoding is like number series again. If it is an independent question, like for example, in a certain code language, television is coded as so and so, how will you code aeroplane? Now, it depends on finding out the logic in the first coding. Like why was television coded in that form? If you get that logic, you can apply a similar logic and find out the code for aeroplane. So there again, it's not definite. Trial and error. You try. If you get the logic, well and good. Otherwise, skip. So in coding and decoding, maybe spend 10-15 seconds per question, but don't spend too much time. If it is, again, there are other formats in coding and decoding. Like for example, if it is a question on that model 7 of coding and decoding. If you have gone through the TalentSprint videos, you would know what model 7 is, where 3-4 statements are given and their coded forms are given. So based on the repetitions in the words here, we have to find out the codes and then answer the 5 questions. Now that is again very, very easy, right? Though it is a 5-mark question, it is very, very easy to solve. But independent questions can be very complex. So you have to be very, very careful while choosing your questions from reasoning ability. Definitely go for questions on directions, alphabet, blood relations. Machine input output, again it depends. There is a logic involved. So basically, wherever there is a logic to be identified, it can get complex. It can be time consuming. I mean, complex meaning it can be time consuming. Like machine input output as such is very, very easy. But unless you understand the logic in the output, it is going to be difficult. That is the reason if you have gone through our videos, we always say that the first step in machine input output is to directly look at the last step. Most of the students commit a mistake where they go in a step-by-step process. But actually the first step is to look at the last step, identify the logic, then go to the first step and look at the rearrangement process. Right? Again, let me not get into details of how to solve a question. You can watch our videos for that. But the point is, be very careful when it comes to reasoning ability, because this, like I've told you, can be a game changer. It can either help you really score more, or you will spoil your examination because of this one section if you don't choose your questions properly. Okay. Now, to those questions, like what if there are 3 questions on complex arrangements? Out of 35 questions here, 15 can be on complex arrangements. I would say skip all the 15 questions. There can be 20 questions on complex arrangements. Avoid. I mean, see, when I say skip, I am actually not saying that skip it for good, right? Skip for that moment, right? Don't start solving those questions immediately. First, solve all the easier ones. If time permits, come back. And you know that time never permits. So indirectly, I am asking you to skip it, actually forever. But then the idea is, don't solve it immediately. First, solve the easier ones. Ensure that you have cracked all those things, right? Make sure that you have solved enough questions from each of the sections, and then come back to such complex ones, right? Like what happened in SBI PO examination, right? SBI PO also was a similar situation. Out of 35 questions that were asked in reasoning ability, 25 questions were from puzzles. I'm sure all of you must be aware of this, right? A very recent case. 35 questions, out of 35 questions, 25 were from puzzles. Meaning there were 5 puzzles of 5 questions each. So 5 into 5, 25 questions are gone there. The remaining 10 questions were from topics like coded inequalities, blood relations, alphabet, etc., element series, etc. Now, the question that came up after the examination from all the students was what? Should we skip all the 25 questions in such a case? I would say even if you had skipped all the 25 and solved those remaining 10 properly, where there is a definite method, you would have cleared the cutoff. See, the point is, if those 25 questions are complex for you, those are complex for all. It is a question from complex circular arrangement. It's not that somebody else knows a shortcut where he can do a complex arrangement in 1 minute or 2 minutes. No, nobody knows a shortcut. Everybody has to go through the process. Are you able to follow? Even if I have to solve, I'll have to go through the process, right? So the point is, first definitely solve the other ones. If one had solved those 10 questions properly and perfectly, he would have cleared the cutoff. What was the cutoff? 8 or 9 marks, if I remember it correctly. That too for general category. You getting it? So solving those other 10 questions would take about 6-7 minutes, not more than that. If you spend, let's say, another 5 to 10 minutes in choosing one of those puzzles, again, you have to choose one of those 5 puzzles and go for it. You may not be able to crack it, but go for it. I mean, that kind of risk has to be taken. So if you are able to solve even 15 questions, you are done. Remember, the paper is tough for all, or the paper is easy for all. It is like the same for all of us, right? So be very, very careful here. Don't worry about the number of puzzles and all that. Skip. Solve the easier ones and then come back if time permits, right? So that's about reasoning. Again, there can be questions on critical reasoning, statements and arguments, statements and assumptions, cause and effect, course of action, etc. Now these questions, again, I would say are a little complex because it is perception based. Basically, he is trying to see a point of view. Now it is not compulsory or mandatory that all our points of view have to match, right? My point of view may be different from yours. Similarly, yours may be different from the examiner's. Now examiner thinks that C is the best assumption behind this, but you feel no, it is B. Now you cannot help these kind of things, right? There again, there is no definite method, right? First of all, you need to understand the language of the question properly, which itself takes a lot of time, right? And in most of the cases, what happens is we are able to eliminate 2-3 options. We know that these 3 are definitely wrong. We are left with 2 options, both of which look very close. So there again, I would say attempt. I am not asking you to skip those questions, but don't end up wasting too much time trying to analyze what could be the answer, right? Because these are all perception based, right? So never spend too much time. I mean, you may find option B to be the best one. I may find option D to be the correct one, right? Or option C to be the correct one. So in such a case, there is no point in wasting your time, right? But attempt those questions, right? The best strategy there is elimination. Go for elimination. Don't try to find out the wrong answer. Try to find out what are the wrong answers. That is easier way when it comes to critical reasoning, right? Now, what about this section, English language? This again has got almost everything. I mean, here you can say that there is no formula, so there is no definite method of answering a question, but it depends on your vocabulary and your grammar that you have learnt over the last couple of months, right? Definitely there are easier questions on finding errors, fill in the blanks. Sorry. So there are some very easy topics like finding errors, fill in the blanks, parajumbles, etc. But like I've mentioned earlier, reading comprehension is something where you have to be careful, right? I would say, given the limitation that we have in terms of time, avoid reading comprehension. Try to solve the independent ones, right? Questions which are from topics like fill in the blanks, because each question is independent, right? You don't have to read a 150 word passage for you to attempt those questions, right? There's only one line, read that. In all probability, you'll be able to crack it. I mean, or you'll just skip it, right? So attempt those independent questions first, and if time permits, go to reading comprehension. There again, you know the strategies. First, read the questions, understand what he's actually asking in the questions there, and keeping that in mind, try to go through the passage, right? Simply reading the passage will not help you. First, read the questions, then read the passage, and try to find out what actually he's looking for as the answers in the questions. I'm sure all of you know all these strategies about how to solve the question. So basically, this is what you need to keep in mind while choosing the questions, right? I would repeat, be very, very careful when it comes to reasoning ability. In the other 2 sections, we can attempt almost everything, like I said, right? Now, what should be the order in which you attempt these sections, and what should be the time allocation? How should you spend this 1 hour, right? 60 minutes for 100 questions. Now, you know that 60 minutes for 100 questions is actually too little, but that's a competition, right? 36 seconds per question. So how are you going to spend these 60 precious minutes across these 3 sections is the question. Like some of you had already mentioned that I'll spend about 10 to 15 minutes on English, then about 20 minutes on quant and 20-25 minutes on reasoning. You can, I would say actually you should have your own strategy, right? If I say that you have to spend 27 minutes on aptitude, doesn't mean that all of us will spend 27 minutes on aptitude, right? It depends on your strength and your weakness, right? That's what I mentioned in the beginning, right? I cannot give a strategy which is applicable for all of us. I can talk about a general idea. There will be some plus or minus there, 5 to 10% deviation has to be there based on your own strength and your weakness. Like for example, if anybody asks me, what will you start with? I'll definitely start with quantitative aptitude because that's my strength. Then I'll go for reasoning and then I'll go for English language. Probably that is the reason I have listed on the topics in that order. If Sylvia had to take this session, she would have probably started with English language. So that's like human mind, right? You will like to do what you're confident about, right? So I would go for quant first, then I'll go for reasoning in the same order, then English language, right? Again, I'll try and spend, see, on an average we have 20 minutes per section, right? 60 minutes, 3 sections, so 20 minutes per section. But does each section need 20 minutes? No. Like for example, if you look at English language, let us first look at this one. English language, do you need 20 minutes? No. See, if you have, although there are many reasons for, for us to spend lesser time on English when compared to reasoning and aptitude, right? Reason number 1, less number of questions. Of course, not a big difference, but then 35 questions in aptitude and reasoning and only 30 questions here. That is one reason. Reason number 2 is that there is nothing called solving a question from English language. You solve questions in aptitude, you solve questions in reasoning, but I would say you answer questions in English language, right? There is no formula. If there is a question on finding errors, is there a formula or a step-by-step process to arrive at the answer? No. Either you know what the error is or you don't know. As simple as that. If you have gone through those kind of errors-based questions, if you know what exactly is the error type there, right? Like Sylvia talks about 21 components. So if you have gone through all those 21 videos, you have learnt all those different types of errors, you would know that, okay, this is the error here, so this part is the answer. But if you don't know it, you don't know it. As simple as that. This is like general knowledge, right? What is the capital of Russia? Just for the sake of an example. You either know that or you don't know that. There is no formula, right? So that is one reason why we need not spend too much time in English language here, except for the topic of reading comprehension. So even if you, let's say, spend 20 seconds per question, you will be able to answer 3 questions in each minute, right? It's all about reading the question, right? Like there is a question on para-jumbles. Para-jumbles is usually for 5 marks. You arrange those 5 sentences, you get 5 marks, right? That's very, very easy. Less than a minute, sometimes maybe 2 minutes, you'll get 5 marks. So this is actually one section where you need not spend that average 20 minutes of time. It has to be cut down here so that you can spend that extra time in the other 2 sections where more time is needed for, again, different reasons. First, more number of questions, and second, there is a method for every question which has to be followed. So let us start with this. I think in English language, one need not spend more than 10 to 12 minutes. You have to spend about 10 to 12 minutes. Depending again on your strength in that section, but I would say maximum of 12 minutes is enough, right? Because there are only 30 questions. Even if you are able to answer about 3 questions per minute, let's say 10 minutes is enough, right? So 10 to 12 minutes for English language, right? Let's say maximum 15 minutes. Even if you spend 15 minutes out of 60 minutes, we are left with 45 minutes. Now how are you going to spend those remaining 45 minutes? See, let me just note it down here. 15 minutes. Let us again, like I said, there can be plus and minus here, right? It should be minus only, it should not be plus. You may probably reduce 15 minutes, don't increase it. You cannot go beyond 15 minutes. Now if you have spent 15 minutes here, we have 45 minutes left for the other 2 sections. Now those 45 minutes, I will say again, I would actually say spend 20 minutes here and 20 minutes on this section, or maybe 20 to 22 minutes here and the remaining time on this section, because like we all know, there are going to be questions in reasoning ability which we'll skip. Although there are 35 questions, we know that we will not answer more than 20 questions, 25 questions, more than 25 questions at best, right? So don't consider 35 questions, right? There are going to be some questions which will be skipped, like we have discussed, complex arrangements. So actually less number of questions have to be answered, right? And those are the questions which doesn't take much time, like questions from quotient inequalities. If you are really lucky, you will get 5 questions on coded inequalities, like what happened in SBI PO preliminary exam. And answering questions from coded inequalities is like a, is like anybody can do it. I mean, what's there? Each question will take about 10 seconds, 15 seconds, not more than that. I mean, if there are 5 questions, you would maximum spend 2 minutes there, right? In 2 minutes, you'll be able to score 5 marks. So, difficult ones, complex ones, where there is no guarantee we are anyway going to skip. The ones which are easier are actually very easy, doesn't take much time. So, try and spend 25 minutes. And maybe if you have to exactly balance 60 minutes here, this is 35, so I'll say 25 minutes on quantitative aptitude. Now, there is a reason here for spending 25 minutes. Why? Each question has got a method. There is nothing which can be directly answered. I mean, it's not planned. If you are really smart, based on options, sometimes you can eliminate 4 options directly and mark the answer. But otherwise, in general, each question has got a formula. You have to apply that formula, or some method is there, you have to follow that, substitute the numbers, do that calculation. Calculation again is a major task in answering questions from aptitude, right? That is one step where most of us actually end up wasting a lot of time without our knowledge. That is the reason from day one I've been talking about practicing on your calculations, right? If you're strong in calculations, your score in aptitude will automatically go up, no doubt about that. The one reason I always say students fail to score more in aptitude is not because they do not know the shortcut formula. It is only because they are poor in calculation. Are you able to follow? The same question from simple interest can be answered in 10 seconds by one student, and the other person they take 60 seconds. Both of them have applied some kind of shortcut, some formula, but they take different times. Why? They are different when it comes to their calculations. You're getting it? So I would say, still, whatever time is left, keep practicing on calculations. I hope you have been practicing on calculations for the last 2 months. If you have been following our sessions, you would know that 45 minutes to 60 minutes per day you have to spend on numbers. Pure practice on numbers, right? Other things can be done later, but you have to sharpen your tool there, right? The calculation. See, you all know that if calculators were allowed, your score would have been something else in aptitude, right? I mean, in the same time, for same type of questions, you definitely get a better score. Why? You don't have to take that headache of doing that calculation. There's a tool available with you. But unfortunately, calculators are not allowed. So you have to make sure that you improve your calculation ability so that you can see. Calculator is allowed meaning what? It will not give you the shortcut formula, right? It will only give you a result of whatever you want, whatever you enter there. So it is only making that process simpler, and that in my view is actually a very, very time consuming process otherwise. So please make sure that you practice on calculations, watch those Speedman's videos, learn all the techniques, right? And keep practicing, because simply knowing the technique again there is not helpful. You should be able to apply the right technique at the right time for the right type of question there in the exam, right? So aptitude is something which would take time, right? Most of the questions are independent. I mean, we don't get any 5 marks questions here other than data interpretation. And data interpretation also, I would say, actually the data is common, but every question is independent, right? I mean, in case of complex arrangements, what happens in reasoning? Until you complete that arrangement, you will not be able to answer these 5 questions. Maybe 1 or 2 you can answer based on whatever arrangement you have done, but usually that doesn't happen. So you have to complete the whole circular arrangement for you to be able to answer the 5 questions. So that is one type of 5 marks question, right? Common data and 5 questions. But in data interpretation, you may choose to attempt only 3. Can you do that in circular arrangements? No, not possible. Because you cannot, there's no point in reading the questions until you have finished the arrangement. But in data interpretation, I can choose to answer only first, second and fourth question out of the 5 questions there for the same common data. So the point is, though it comes with common data, I say these are all 5 independent questions. And you have to again choose your questions smartly here. Out of 5, 1 can be really time consuming. Skip that. And the other 4 can be answered, right? So these are the things that you have to keep in mind, right? So this is what I would say, 25, 20 and 50. Try and reduce this time. This is maximum what you have to spend, and balance it accordingly. And we don't need time for anything else. Like earlier, when it used to be a paper-based test, there is this circling which needs to be done, darken the circles, which is actually a very big headache, let me tell you. I mean, many times it has so happened that students have answered a lot of questions on their question paper, but they couldn't fill the OMR sheet, right? because most of the students, they have this habit of darkening the circles at the end, and that time which is left is not enough for them to darken the circles also. But that big challenge is solved since the day exams have gone online, right? So we don't need to spend any time anywhere else other than answering these questions. So I would say this is the time breakup. Again, tweak it based on your strength and your weakness. This is based on my strengths and my weaknesses, I would say, and largely it will be similar for all of you. More than, let's say, 6-7 questions. So in that case, in 10 minutes you'll finish it. You know that remaining questions you don't want to try and spend more time on the other sections. I mean, it all depends. You cannot go with a fixed frame of mind that I'll spend only 25 minutes on aptitude. You have to take certain decisions during the exam, but largely it should be in this fashion. Now, how do you attempt the sections? In which order? I would say start with either aptitude or reasoning, depending on your strength again, right? Either aptitude or reasoning. Then maybe go for English language and then do the third one, right? Or you can start with English language also. I mean, there's nothing wrong in starting with English language, because you know that in 10 minutes it is going to get over. So finish that off. One thing is done in the first 10 minutes, right? The only risk there is, if you're not very good in English language, let's say, all right, and if you're just looking at clearing the cutoff, then don't attempt, and then don't start with English, because what happens is the first 10 minutes are really very, very important, right? I mean, if you attempt a section like English language in the first 10 minutes, and let's say you're able to answer only 12 out of these 30 questions, you get nervous, and out of that nervousness, you will spoil the other 2 sections also, which are actually your strengths, right? So although it is only 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, I would say try to keep it for the end, right? I'm sure Sylvia will not agree with me, but start with something that is your strength, right? So that you start with the positive, in a positive way, right? Start with a bang and then quickly run for it. But having said all this, there are certain things that you have to keep in mind. One very important point to be noted is the speed with which you answer the questions. Usually what happens is, when we start the exam, we are slow. It's natural. And we try to pick up towards the end. If you can control this behavior of yours, if you try to maintain a constant speed, the highest speed from the start, from the 0th minute till the 60th minute, you definitely stand a great chance of qualifying. See, what happens is, I mean, this is like, again, mindset, right? When you start the exam, you see the timer, which is 59 minutes and 59 seconds. So you know that so much of time is left, and that naturally will make the whole process slow, because you see a whole lot of time there, right? And this is just the first question. When you are in the last few minutes, let's say last 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, you know that time is anyway going to run out now. So you automatically start working faster. I mean, if you remember your exams during your graduation, right, where you have to fill in the answer sheets. So if you look at the number of answer sheets that are filled, I mean, when you write descriptive answers, right, the number of sheets that are filled in the first 10 minutes or first half of the time is very few. But towards the end, your handwriting will go for a toss. You'll start very neatly, well aligned, very beautifully. But everything goes for a toss towards the end of the examination, because then you realize that, okay, time is getting wasted, let me do it very quickly. Something like that happens here. Of course, handwriting and all doesn't matter, but naturally we are a little slow in the beginning. But with practice, you should be able to eliminate this behavior as well, right? So I would say play it like Virender Sehwag. I mean, he's like one of my favorite batsmen. I'm sure those who all follow cricket would understand what he does, right? I mean, while most of the batsmen settle down and then hit a boundary, this man comes, hits a boundary, and then he settles down. I mean, he's like, from ball number 1 till he gets out, or till the last ball, he's at the same pace. I mean, usually that's what has been observed in his behavior, right? So something like that. I mean, that trait is very, very important, right? You have to play with your highest speed from the first question onwards, right? Solve the first question as well as though it is the last question of your examination. And not the last question of the examination, but this is the last minute of your examination, right? I'm sure all of you know that the number of questions that we solve in the first 10 minutes are very few when compared to the number of questions that we solve in the last 10 minutes. If you can avoid it and bring in that behavior of last minutes from the beginning, you'll definitely be able to attempt more number of questions, right? So I think that's one very important aspect that you have to keep in mind. And then for you to work very peacefully again in that 1 hour, some things have to be understood, right? Like reaching the examination center well in time. By any chance, if you get late, if you reach in that last 1 minute of the examination, I mean examination meaning last minute when he's about to close the doors and all, it can spoil the whole game, right? Because you have started building that nervousness or that pressure out of no reason, simply because you were late for whatever reason it could be. You have got up late or you didn't know the route. All these things have to be controlled, right? So reach the examination center well in advance, right? If let's say 9:30 is your reporting, try to be there latest by 9:30, right? Not beyond that. Sit there outside for half an hour, 1 hour, so that you are relaxed, you are composed, right? If you reach in the last minute, last second there, you are in a hurry and you will not be able to start the way you wanted to, right? So these small things will play a key role, right? I mean, if you understand or not, but this definitely plays a key role. Don't carry those books and material to the examination venue there, right? I mean now there is a different angle here. Some people reach at 9:30 or they reach at 8:30 itself. Though the reporting is at 9:30, they reach at 8:30 itself, and there they are kind of running through these books. I don't know what they are trying to do in that last 10 minutes or half an hour of the examination. You should have done all this drama in the last 2 months of your preparation. So don't carry anything, right? Be very calm, relax. Remember, whatever you have done in the last 2 months will help you perform. Whether you have prepared well or not, that is, I mean, according to that, you'll perform in the exam. Don't try to, continue that learning process till the last minute. And in fact, forget about last minute. I would say at least 24 hours before the examination, cut down your preparation and, planning for the exam. You should start relaxing. Remember, these exams, more than the test of your knowledge, these are tests of your state of mind. How would you perform in that, compressed 1 hour of time, right? How do you react to situations? That is what is actually tested here more than your knowledge. Because all of you know that if the same paper is given to you for 3 hours of time, you will score more. How does that happen? It is just because you are relaxed, right? So it is actually testing your state of your mind, and you have to be very, very controlled and composed during that 1 hour. And for you to be very composed and calm in that 1 hour, the preparation should start at least 24 hours before the examination. What kind of preparation? No preparation, no learning, basically, right? Don't touch your books and all that. Relax, have a good sleep before the exam, right? Eat something healthy. I mean, not just one day before the exam. Eating healthy has to be a habit. I mean, you should be, maintaining your health again. But the point is, involve in something that you like, right? Enjoy yourself one day before the exam so that you can perform really well. See, this part of your body needs a break, right? And you cannot give it a break after the exam. I mean, give it a break one day before the exam so that it can function really well in that 1 hour. All right. So I think that's about it from my side. Prepare well, practice well. Last few days, the only thing that you can do is take more and more mock tests, right? Don't again take the results very seriously. I mean, if you perform really good, don't let that get into your head and be overconfident. And if you perform really bad, also don't worry. Maybe this exam was bad. You'll do well in the exam, in the real exam there, right? So the whole idea is that your learning should have been complete by now. All you must be doing now is only practicing more and more. Okay, there should not be anything like I am yet to go through the topic of, let's say, partnership. I don't even know the concept. If that is the situation, you are in a bad situation. I mean, you have to get out of it at the earliest possible. Maybe there are another 10-12 days for your examination depending on the slot that you have got, but make sure that you complete the learning at the earliest and then continue with your practice. Okay, so yeah, preparation in the last week, Vishal has posted that. So that's what I'm saying, Vishal. I think see, you know that there are two components, learning and practice. What will you do? I mean, last 1 week you have already done lots of preparation over the 2 months, right? So maybe focus on things like, again, spending time on calculations, because that revision is very, very important. I mean, you have to keep yourself in touch with numbers every single day, right? Every single day. So maybe spend good amount of time on practicing on your calculations, and maybe take one mock test every day. Don't take too much pressure. I mean, don't again try to solve, because there are 24 hours, don't try to solve 10 mock tests every day just to, just to think that you will be able to do well because of that in the examination, right? Don't do that. One mock test a day is enough, all right? Analyze that. What is missing in our preparation is we don't analyze our performance. We only look at the score and say, okay, I've scored only 40 today. Let me try tomorrow. I've scored 45 tomorrow, or I've scored 35 tomorrow. So, simply taking the mock test is again not going to help. You have to actually spend more than 1 hour in sitting back and analyzing what has gone wrong in that 1 hour of your preparation, right? And avoid committing those mistakes from the next mock exam. See, the score doesn't really matter in my view. If you have scored 45 today, or if you have scored 75 today, and if you have scored 60 in the next exam, okay, it is okay, don't panic. The only thing that you have to check is, I had committed some mistakes in this exam when I scored 75. Did I repeat those mistakes in today's exam? If you have not repeated those mistakes, I would say you have performed better. Your score has gone down, could be for various reasons, right? Maybe the questions asked were more complex, you had better, you're better off skipping those questions. All those things are fine. So the number doesn't really matter. What matters is, are you committing the same mistakes again? That doesn't matter. What matters is, you should not repeat those mistakes. Alright? So I think try and revise as much as you can and spend time on numbers. But one day before the exam, please stop doing all these things, right? Relax, involve in whatever it could be painting, watching movies, maybe listening to music or dancing, whatever you like. Just do that and try to keep this really composed. Okay, so I think I'm done from my end. If there are any questions, you can quickly post. Let me tell you, if your questions are around how many questions should we attempt, what would be the estimated cutoff, what type of questions will be asked, will questions come from syllogism or not, because SBI PO they did not ask questions on syllogism, SBI clerks also they did not ask questions from syllogism, will they ask questions on critical reasoning or not, right? What happens if there are 10 questions from puzzles? For all these questions, I don't have an answer. I don't know what type of questions will be asked. I don't know what could be the estimated cutoff. I don't know how many questions you have to attempt so that you are safe, right? I don't know whether they'll ask questions on syllogism or not. I don't know whether they will ask questions from number series or not. All I know is we have practiced well and our performance is in our control, right? So work on that and give your best in the examination. How many puzzles should we attempt? I would say don't attempt any puzzle. Again, we have already discussed this. I don't know why the question is getting repeated, but then avoid answering complex puzzles, right? Solve the easier ones, solve the other questions, and if time permits, maybe attempt one of those. It all depends again how many puzzles are asked. There could be only one puzzle. If you are very lucky, let's say there is only one puzzle, you can try that. Any strategy for English for the last week preparation? Well, I think I'm not the right person to be very honest, but what could you do in the last 1 week? Here again, I think, what can you do even in 1 month of your preparation for English language? Do you really think we can improve our English in 1 month? No. But we can do certain things for us to be able to score in that examination, right? I think in the last 1 week only solve more and more questions, and practice is really important for English language, and not just English language. In fact, any subject that you see here, practice is really a key. So try and practice more and more papers, especially focus on finding errors and fill in the blanks and these type of questions, because that these constitute a higher weightage in the examination, right? Vishal says, please arrange a session after 16th, the exam is over. It might be helpful for those who have exam on 22nd and 23rd. Well, this has been in high demand. A lot of our TalentSprint students are also asking for a session on 16th. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it for all of you, but we will try and do one session at least for the TalentSprint students there. Somebody has suggested that you have to eat bananas before the examination for you to be handle pressure. I don't know whether this really works or not. All of you do it at your own risk. It can work otherwise also, so be very careful. We probably need to consult a dietitian for that. Which topic or things should we do every day in the last week? Is that the question? I've missed that chat. One second. Which topic or things should we do every day in the last week? This has come from Yogita Deshmukh. So Yogita, I think one thing that you have to do every day in the last 1 week is spend time with numbers, because that warm up every day is very much needed for your performance in the examination. That I would say you do it in the last day also. Although I have asked you not to prepare anything on the last day, but you can spend 1 hour of your time on numbers there. The other thing that you'll have to do is maybe, solve, I mean, again, I'm going subject by subject. So with respect to aptitude, I would say try and spend 1 hour on numbers every day, other than whatever mock test that you take for that section. When it comes to reasoning, don't try to do too much of complex puzzles and all that in the last 1 week, because you know that, ultimately we're going to skip it. Maybe focus more on questions on syllogisms, because syllogism, again, you need to be in constant touch. I mean, those rules and Venn diagrams are all very, very important, right? So solve questions solve questions where you know that you can do something in the examination, right? Which can be your strengths in the examination. English, again, what will you do? Like I said, 1 week you can't really do anything, but focus more on finding errors, fill in the blanks, vocabulary again, right? Don't try to build your vocabulary in the last 1 week. You should have done it over 2 months of time already. Last 1 week, maybe, try and run through those words that you've already learned, because many times it so happens in most of the students, is that you learn 20 words every day, but after 3 days you've forgotten these 20 words. So you're actually learning 20 words every day, but you are unable to hold those in your brain, right? I mean, you are unable to retain the vocabulary. So that makes no sense. And in this case, revision is very, very important. So probably in the last 1 week, try and revise on your vocabulary. I'm sure many of you maintain a book where you note down the words, right? And their usage and the sentence example and part of the speech, etc. So try and run through that book. It can be very, very helpful in the exam, right? Ram Kumar says, can we skip QA word problems and do the rest? Would that be enough? What do you mean by word problems in the first place? And secondly, don't ask me questions like this. I mean, I don't know will that be enough or not. You're again indirectly asking me about cutoff. I'm asking you not to ask about cutoff, but you somewhere or other bring that discussion, right? Anything else? Can we stop it here? Arpit says, please arrange a session after 16th. Arpit, we have already discussed about it. Dipanshu says, my aim is to crack IBPS PO 2017 and I am, hold on, the chat is running very fast, sorry. I am very weak in maths. I can't even do calculations fast. Please, can you suggest me what should I do for this? I'll be grateful for this. Thanks in advance. Well, Dipanshu, I think when you've already made up your mind that you want to crack PO in 2017 and not in 2016, I can't help, because it is your decision that you will crack it in 2017. The good part about it is you have a lot of time, and I'm sure this 1 year of time that you have for cracking 2017's PO exam is enough, is definitely enough for you to do well in quantitative aptitude, right? See, it doesn't really matter whether you're from a maths background or not. Many students come up with reasons that I've done my graduate in commerce, so I'm not really good in mathematics. Most of the students who appear for the exam are engineers, so they are actually good in mathematics. I don't understand this logic, because they are not going to test your engineering mathematics in the examination, right? What they test here is what you have learned up to 10th standard. So there is nothing complex about quantitative aptitude. What can actually be complex is only the calculation part of it. And Dipanshu, because you have more than a year left for your examination, for your actual aim, I would say every day spend about 45 minutes on numbers. Now, we'll not be getting into details here, time is already up, but I can suggest you to go through the speed maths video that we have in our TalentSprint online program, right? I mean, for those who are not aware, let me mention that we have about 466 videos for all the topics of aptitude, reasoning, English, general awareness, banking, etc. Right? And there are lots of ebooks, online mock tests, discussion forums which can add a great value to your preparation. So Dipanshu, you can explore our program if you are really interested. Go through that speed maths video, right? It is actually a 4 hour and 20 minutes long video. I remember this very well because I've used this example already 100 times. So that's a 4 hour 20 minute video where we have discussed about various techniques that can help you do calculations faster. I'll not say this is the end of it. There are thousands of other techniques, but no point in learning everything, right? We have tried and made the video in such a way that we discuss only that which can be really helpful in the exam. Like how to multiply 2-digit numbers faster, how to multiply 3-digit numbers faster. Now after discussing this, many students came back and told me that, how do we multiply 4-digit numbers faster? I said, don't worry about it. 4-digit numbers, let's do on paper. What we are unable to do in the exam is the 2-digit multiplication. And that is what is mostly asked in the exam. So focus on that. So all these videos have been recorded keeping in mind your, keeping in mind what will actually help you in the exam there, right? In that 1 hour of time. So go through these videos and keep practicing. I think that is the key, right? Anything else? Yogendra Jain says, sir, shall we do puzzles in the last? Of course. I mean, when I say skip puzzles, I didn't mean that you have to skip it forever. What I said is skip it, solve the remaining questions. If time permits, try it. I mean, it's not that you have finished all the questions in 15 minutes and 10 minutes you are sitting idle there, right? And because I have asked you not to attempt puzzles, you are not even touching it. No, if 10 minutes are left, do one of those puzzles. I mean, it's like obvious that you have to attempt whatever is left out, if time really permits, right? Vinay Kumar says, is it possible to avail only English video lectures from TalentSprint? Yes. You can get only English videos if you want. So you can visit our website talentsprint.com/bank to know all the details of the program. In fact, there is some special offer going on for Dasera, which you can explore and exploit, I would say, right? You can save like flat 40% on any of our programs. Well, I am not here to sell it to you. Whether you join our program or not, my advice is to you all is to practice really well, because these exams are purely a game of practice. Whether you join TalentSprint program or some other program or go to some other classroom coaching preparation, that's your choice, right? But do practice well and analyze your performance with each mock test that you take, because simply unless there is that feedback loop which will tell you that, okay, these are the wrong things that you have done today, avoid it tomorrow, you'll not be able to improve. How will you improve? Your score may actually improve, but are you actually improving in terms of your performance, right? So it's very, very important. And to help you with that, we have a very important person in our team called Tia. Now Tia is an artificial intelligence bot. She analyzes our students' performance every week and sends out a report, a detailed report, a fantastic report, and it is only getting better with each passing day. So I think Tia can be a very good companion in your preparation, right? Because she will give you detailed analytics which are otherwise not possible for any human being, right? I mean, personally, even for me, if I have to sit and analyze thousands of students' performance in one mock exam, it would take months together. But Tia kind of does that in a few minutes, right? And very, very insightful report. So I think that again will be a great help for all of you. Rohan says, I've solved 200 puzzles in the last 2 months. Well, Rohan, I only hope that would help you. I generally don't suggest to my students to do too much on puzzles, but if you have really solved 200 puzzles, and I think you can give a better shot than others for this complex arrangements in the reasoning aptitude section. But even then, I would say, even if you have solved 200 puzzles in the last 2 months, the strategy is to skip it in the exam, right? Don't try this in the exam. It is very, very risky. Okay, so I think we'll close it here. Thank you all for joining us. There are questions coming in, but all the questions are around that cutoff only. I mean, directly or indirectly, you're asking me the same thing. So I think let's close it here. Thank you all for joining us in this session. Like I've said, there are special offers going on. You can exploit. Details are available below the video screen. You can just check that and keep practicing. I think that's a very, very important key for your success in the examination. Okay, the exam is few days away. Don't panic, right? Don't let that nervousness build on you and hamper your performance in the exam. Okay, keep yourself calm and composed. I think your preparation in the last 1 week should not be on the subject, but your preparation in this last few days, 1 week or less than 1 week, should be on controlling your emotions and your state of mind in that 1 hour of the examination. Okay, I think I would like to close with that. Thank you all thank you once again for joining us. All the very best for your IBPS PU examination. I hope all of you qualify and come back to us for your preparation in the main examination, right? For the main examination. And at the same time, other exams are also coming up, IBPS clerks and RRBs. So do well in all these exams, and I really wish to see you succeed in these upcoming exams, right? Thank you once again. See you all next week. Details of the session will be made available on our Facebook page and the YouTube channel. Meanwhile, you can explore our programs on talentsprint.com/bank. talentsprint.com is the website, or talentsprint.com/bank is the page. Or you can also call our toll-free number, which is 1-800-102-9006. So the details are all available there. You can check it yourself. Thank you. Hello everyone, good evening and welcome to this live session on data interpretation for IBPS exams brought to you by TalentSprint. Hi guys, welcome to TalentSprint. I'm Rohit Agarwal and here's your daily dose of aptitude skills. In this session today,